CQ, CQ, CQ. This is Kilo 5 Charlie Lima Mike, and you are listening to the Everything Ham Radio podcast. Hello everybody, welcome to the Everything Ham Radio podcast. My name is Curtis, K5CLM, and today we're going to be talking about Dstar. What exactly is Dstar? Well, Dstar is a digital form of communications. It stands for Digital Smart Technologies for Amateur Radio. That right there tells me that it was made just for us, and I would be right. It was actually developed by the Japan Amateur Radio League in cooperation with the Japanese government, with a small little part of it called the Ministry of Post and Telecommunications. It was developed in the late 1990s, so right around 1998 if memory serves me correct, and basically it uses frequency division, multiple access, and minimum shift keying for its packet-based standard. That is a mouthful, I tell you what. What exactly it means, I'm really not sure. And I really probably should have prefaced this beforehand, before I started talking, that I am not an expert in Dstar, by no stretch of the imagination. I haven't actually personally used Dstar before. I have used some P25, which we'll talk about in a couple episodes through my work, but I've never actually used Dstar, so please forgive me if I give you any misinformation or vague information. So, if you see anything, please leave comments below on corrections, and we can go from there. But anyways, back to what we're talking about. Let's talk a little bit about the differences, and the pros and cons and stuff like that between digital and analog. Being that it is a digital system, there is a bunch of pros and a bunch of cons. Probably the most noticeable difference between the two is the quality of the sound. The sound of a digital system is often much clearer and crisper than an analog system. You may recognize this from over-the-air broadcasting. If any of you that are listening have that or had that in the past, you might remember back when we had analog TV, that you would often get snow on your television, or the further you lived from the transmitter site, the worse your picture quality was. You might have a bunch of snow or static or whatever, and then if you live closer, you might have a perfectly fine signal. Now that digital TV has come along, you either have it or you don't. There's very little in between. There is a little bit right around the 50% strength mark, if memory serves me correct, that you'll kind of get a little pixelation, but normally it's either there or it's not. And it's the same way with the digital voice system of Dstar, and more than likely System Fusion. I know it is for P25. So you're either there or you're not. But when you are there, you have this really crisp and good-sounding signal and good-sounding audio. And it's often much richer, much clearer, and a lot more like your normal voice. A lot of times with the analog system, you kind of sound tinny maybe a little bit, or maybe a little bit higher than you do in person. Where with the digital voice, it's pretty much a pretty good representation of both what you sound like in real life and in person versus on the radios. So what else is there? Another pro of the digital system is that when you transmit, not only is it your voice is going out, but also some other information is going out as well. With Dstar, and I'm not sure about System Fusion, I have not got dug into that yet, but with Dstar, anytime you key up the radio, it sends your call sign that you have programmed in the radio. Now, technically, that meets the requirements of identification through FCC rules. However, it's still a good practice to maintain the voice ID every 10 minutes and at the end of your conversation. just to make sure that you stay within those guidelines, because you're not always talking on a digital repeater or otherwise. So, my philosophy is to CYA, and I'm sure y'all can figure out what that means. Something else that can be transmitted with your signal is your GPS locations. A lot of times the new or the ICOM commercially available Dstar radios will have a built-in GPS, or you can buy a board to add to them, and it'll have your GPS locations. Well, this information can be sent on with your voice every time you key up. So it's kind of like APRS on steroids or something like that, in a way. But anyways, this information can be sent along with you. And so if you have a Dstar repeater in your area, then this would work great, because your packet or your location information will go out with your transmission. And if you're doing an emergency net, then all the information you have can be seen by net control, and it can be heard by net control, and then you'll never get lost, kinda. Except for if you transmit, then and you move, or you don't transmit and you move, then there might be an issue. But anyways, that is one of the good things about it. Let's see, what else? Something else about the Dstar repeaters is that you can actually download a database of all the repeaters in the U.S., plug them into your radio using a small SD card, and the radios have a function to find a close repeater. And it basically looks at that database and looks at your GPS location and finds the closest one to you, or at least a list of them. So that's kind of cool, So what about the cons? The biggest con probably would be from somebody out looking in. The Dstar system seems to be kind of hard to use. There's a lot of fields that you have to fill out. A lot of different programming options. I mean, there's, one repeater might have 4 different modules, and you have to use the right module. And then if you want to talk to another repeater, you have to fill out that part of the memory channel, or the channel that you're using, and along with the ID of your local repeater, and maybe even the call center that you're calling. And the frequency offset is not the same as normal analog repeaters, so that could be a little different. So there's a lot of different things that you have to do. Fortunately, there is, and like I said before, there is the list of the Dstar repeaters, and that'll automatically do it. There is also functions built into the newer ones where you can turn your radio to the frequency, you key up the repeater, and it will automatically fill in the fields that you need if you're just wanting to talk local. If you want to talk over the internet, then that's a different story. And that's one of the things that we didn't cover in the pros, is that Dstar repeaters are more often than not connected to the internet. So you can talk to anybody around the world, and if they have a Dstar repeater or some other function of it, they can talk to you, and it's kind of neat. So let's see, what else? We're getting kind of long in this segment, so I'm going to kind of hurry here a little bit. So as far as emergency communications, Dstar is probably a pretty nice little thing to do, because it's easy to hook up a large area to work with. You can set multiple repeaters to one reflector, and everybody will be hearing everybody else. So that makes it kind of nice. The problem with that is that it takes internet. If your internet goes down, then you're pretty well in hot water. There is like a backup system, I believe, if the repeaters have it installed, which uses the 1.2 gigahertz. Basically, it's like a linking frequency, or the 10 gigahertz band, I believe. But anyways, there is that, but it has to be installed, from my understanding. Another one of the cons is the cost. When they first got off the ground, the cost of a Dstar radio was significantly high. It was like twice the price of anything else, and even today, their repeaters are a little bit more expensive than others, mainly because you have to buy so many different modules to do the different things. But the good part about it is that you can have one controller for multiple frequencies, from my understanding. Like I said, I'm not an expert, so please, if I'm saying wrong, please forgive me. The cost has come down some for the actual handheld units and mobile units and stuff like that compared to what they are now, and they're pretty well comparable to anything else. While we're talking about the radios, let's talk a little bit about them. There is a 1.2 gigahertz mobile radio, which is the ID-1. It does have a nice removable face. From my understanding, the primary use of the ID-1 in the 1.2 gigahertz is for data. Using this, you can get like 128k bits per second, I believe, using the 1.2. So it's used a lot for like mesh networking type thing, or emergency communications like peer-to-peer, file transfers, keyboard to keyboard, stuff like that. Is what it is mainly used for, from my understanding. You can also use voice, but it's mainly for digital. So let's move on to the 2-meter 440. The ID-5100A is a really nice dual band radio. It has a nice screen. It's easy to read. I believe it's possibly even touchscreen. There is a lot of functions you can do with it. It's very small and compact, the radio itself. The screen is a little oversized, so it's easier to read. The other 2-meter 440 mobile unit is the ID-880H radio, which is also the radio that Kenwood took and rebranded when they launched a Dstar radio that was only available in Japan. It is no longer available, but anyways, back to this. It looks like a fairly nice radio. Unfortunately, both of these radios, neither one of them in the pictures that I've seen, shows dual band receive capabilities. The typical dual band receive capabilities is when you can see both frequencies at the same time. Which typically means that you can hear both of them at the same time. Not always. Being as a net control, a lot of the times, I like to be able to hear two different frequencies. If you can't hear two different frequencies, then, you could be in trouble. A lot of times we'll have a net on one frequency and like a command channel on the other. And if I can't hear that command channel, then what's the purpose? Anyways, let's move on to handhelds. The ID-51A is probably the best-selling Dstar handheld radio. It does have a very large screen. The weird thing about it is it doesn't have the standard touch keypad thing. It doesn't have, the 1 through 9 and 0 and star and pound and ABCD and stuff like that. It doesn't have that. It just has 6 buttons and like a hat switch. Like a little toggle hat button thing. But it is a fairly nice little radio, and it's fairly cheap-ish. It's comparable with other radios in that market. The ID-31A is a 70-centimeter only handheld, but it is also waterproof. So if you are a rancher or something like that, or kayaker or something, you could take this and use it on 440 and not worry about it getting wet. So, on to the little higher price stuff, the HF stuff. The IC7100 is an HF, VHF, UHF base station. It has a very nice desktop stand readout type thing. It's a really nice radio. It also comes with a really nice price tag of about, I think, like $1,600. So if you can afford that, then by all means get it. The granddaddy of all Dstar radios is the IC9100. It is the typical HF, full-blown granddaddy HF radio. It also has the nice screen, and I believe it's touchscreen. Has all the bells and whistles, but it also has a price tag of like $2,600. So which one's best for you? Go to my website at everythinghamradio.com and check out the post. Dstar radios and accessories. There is 2 charts that ICOM has put out that are listed on that blog post, which has like a comparison chart. So check that out. All right, let's move on to software here. There is quite a few different programs that you can get with Dstar. One of which is it's called IRC DDB. It's IRC David Boy. It's an add-on that you can get that you hook in basically to the to the repeater itself, if I'm reading this right, and it's a module like, and it interconnects the Dstar repeater with the IRC Internet Relay Chat servers. So you can basically use this as a interconnect, or as a keyboard-to-keyboard type conference thing, which could be good. There are other things. Another program is called DChat. It's a Windows-based keyboard-to-keyboard communications application that you can use with Dstar, and it's basically like sending a text message, but it's not. It's kind of more along the lines of like maybe a Twitter or like a Facebook chat or something like that. It's probably the easiest way to do it. But again, it goes over. I guess it would go over both the internet and the airwaves, maybe. That I'm not sure, as I've never used it. The other piece of software that I want to talk about, and which is a really neat piece of software. Actually, there's two left, but anyways, the next piece is called DRATS, just like a rat. This program is, I think, probably a more emergency communications based program. It also has the keyboard-to-keyboard chatting option, but it also has other things. You can transfer files. You can do position reporting, mapping, and a whole bunch of other stuff. You could have a standardized form that each position in your emergency plan has. They fill out like a supply request or something like that. You have the form, you fill it out, and you click a button or whatever, and it sends it over the Dstar digital transfer, basically, over the airwaves. You don't need the internet, so that would be awesome, especially for a disaster or something like that. The last piece of software that I want to talk about, because we're really running out of time here, is the Dstar Query. It is a piece of software that you can use that works with Java APRS or DPRS interface, and it monitors the Dstar serial port or the USB port on the ID1 for commands and queries for remote stations. When it receives a recognized query, it runs the associated application and returns whatever is printed by the application. Again, what exactly that means, I'm not exactly sure, but it sounds like it could be pretty neat. All right, real quick, let's move on to hardware. There's a couple of them there. There is a piece of hardware that you can get that you can hook with your Dstar repeater, and it's called the Smart Digi D-Gate, and it's basically a portable, compact TNC that's designed to gateway position packets between the Dstar network and a conventional analog APRS network. So it basically takes any position reporting transmission that is done on the standard APRS network at the 145.04, 146.05, something like that. I'm not sure exactly. I don't remember what the APRS frequency. It's been so long since I used it. Anyways, it takes any packet that's received on the APRS network and relays it to the Dstar network, and vice versa. Okay, next, the two last things that I'm going to talk about with the Dstar. The first is called the DV dongle. It is basically a hotspot for Dstar. So basically what the DV dongle is, it's a little piece of hardware. It has a USB connector on one side and an antenna on the other with a whole bunch of little components and resistors and all that good stuff built in between them. Basically what you do is you plug this DV dongle into your laptop or your computer or something like that, and it connects to a reflector or something like that out on the Dstar network. The antenna is basically used to you can have a handheld radio or something like that. You talk on your Dstar network, you connect to it, and it transmits through the DV dongle. to the reflector and vice versa. This would work really great for like business trips or something like that. So, you can go to a hotel, connect your laptop to the Wi-Fi, put your DV dongle in there, and walk around the hotel using your handheld. I personally don't know if I would do that, because that would mean my laptop would have to be on and pretty much out in the open. And I really don't trust people that well, so, c'est la vie. Okay, so, last thing, Raspberry Pi. I know that there's a lot of stuff going on with Raspberry Pi. Maryland Dstar has made a thing with Dstar that uses the Raspberry Pi, and they were kind enough to put the programming for the Raspberry Pi up on their website where you can download it. So you can actually buy the whole thing, or you can get the image and how to make it yourself. So that would be, one way to do it, which might even be a little bit cheaper. So that about wraps up Dstar for this podcast. I think next podcast we're going to be talking about Yaesu System Fusion. So let's move on to our next topic. Okay, so in this segment of our podcast, we're going to be talking about MJARS. That's the Mansfield Johnson Amateur Radio Service. They're located in Mansfield, Texas. It's also another close little, actually not so little, amateur radio club that's located near me. They started way back in, I believe it was like 2007, if memory serves me correctly. Yes, in 2007. They have since grown to like 50 members or something like that, so that's really awesome and really great for them. They do several events, they do field day, things like that, and they also have some really good training from what I've been reading on their website. Also, this year, they released on January 1st a little Happy New Year message, and they also said that the ARRL field day results are in, and they took first place nationally in Category 3F. That's awesome. They also moved up from rank 97 to number 56 overall total ranking, so that's really cool too. I wish I could have participated in field day this last year, but unfortunately I wasn't able to because I have to work. I hate that W word. Anyways, there's a lot of really interesting information. They have 3 repeaters that they can use, 2 of which are owned by the club. The first one is a 220 machine. It's currently in the testing phase, according to their website. It's at 224.46 with a negative offset and no PL. They also have a 443.775 repeater, of course with a positive offset, and a 110.9 tone. They have access to the 145.39 repeater, which is owned by Gary Pennell at WA5 Frank Willie's Whiskey Charles. I believe I got that right. Owned by him, but he lets the club use it. They have a lot of really neat information on their website. A lot of different training type things that they do at their club. They have all their minutes and stuff, which is a good thing. The only thing that I noticed about their website that is just a minor thing, but it does kind of, kind of take away from the website a little bit, is that with the exception of their main page, their formatting is just a little bit off with their sidebar. They have the little weather conditions and upcoming events thing on their sidebar on the main page, but on every other page on their website, it's actually at the bottom of the page, and which is just a formatting issue. So no real big deal, but it does kind of take from the website a little bit as far as somebody that maybe knows about websites and stuff like that and builds them. That kind of frustrates. But anyways, that's the club. Check them out. Their website is www.wa5jrs.com. That's William Alpha 5 John Romeo Sierra.com. Actually, should have been whiskey, but like I said, I'm a 911 dispatcher, and sometimes I get those phonetic alphabets mixed up. Anyways, that's the club of topic today. So, with that, I will bid you adieu. I will bid you farewell and adieu, and we will talk about the news. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Everything Ham Radio podcast. Today, in this section of the podcast, we're going to be talking about a few things. Not as many as I wanted because we're running short on time. How many of you remember those little electronic hobbyist kits growing up as a kid? Well, if you remember right, those were made by a company named Ramsey. They've been doing it for like 40 years, making little inexpensive electronic kits for hobbyists. Anything from like a AM radio to like a little test kit, little LED blinky kit, stuff like that. Started way back in the 70s. Anyways, growing up with those things were really awesome. Unfortunately, they've probably gone to the wayside because of things like computers and Xboxes and stuff like that, and people probably don't do it anymore. So, as of January 1st of this year, 2016, they will no longer be making those hobby kits. They will still be making their equipment, their test equipment, so that will not be changing, but the hobby kits are no more. They will be dumping all of their products, remaining hobby kit inventory, onto Amazon. So if you want something, you need to go and get it now. Next on my list, FCC has redesigned their website to make it easier for ham radio operators to file interference complaints. Before, you had to send an email to a specific email address, give them the information, and then there was no way really to track it after that. If you go to the website now, there's a link that you can click on the right side of the screen. It's called File a Consumer Complaint. The next page will load up several categories, and you can look under Radio and click on File Complaint. This will take you to a web form that you can fill out, and it has several drop boxes. On one of the drop box menus, there is an option called Radio Issues. Pick one, such as like interference or something like that. That will bring down another menu. The Your Radio Method field is included in another drop box menu. Select Amateur Radio. Complete the rest of the form. Click Submit, and that's it. It has been submitted to the FCC. This will issue will be assigned a ticket number, and complaints. You can track it basically with that ticket number. How much they'll actually put on there for you to know about is a different story, but it will give it a ticket number. You will be able to follow up on it. And maybe it'll be better. Who knows? Last on my list, since we are getting close to the end of our episode, is the National Parks on the Air. This event got kicked off last weekend on January 2nd. I believe, is when it got kicked off. Basically what this is, if you hadn't read about it, this year celebrates the National Park Service 100th anniversary. Amateur radio has been recruited or volunteered or something like that to activate in different parks, I believe every weekend, to help promote it. And basically you can get like different national park stamps for your QSL cards or something like that. And when the QSL cards or QSO cards that you get when you're sent out, they'll be mailed from there, and the stamp will actually come from that national park. It was a very good weekend according to the ARRL News. The public relations manager, Sean Kutzko, KX9X, said that pilots were pretty strong all weekend, and at least 2 units. Weir Farm National Historic Site in Connecticut, NS76, and Little Rock Central High School National Historic Site in Arkansas NS-45 were activated via the SO-50 FM satellite, that's awesome. Let's see, what else we got here. I know that it was really busy. One of the participators, I believe, said that, here it is, Jeff Otterson, N1KDO, said that the NPOTA event looks to make the Centennial QSO party look like a quiet night with poor band conditions. It was told that there was pileups all the time that it was going on. It's kind of like field day on steroids or something. Maybe that first kickoff, or maybe not on steroids, but equivalent to field day. But when you think about it, most of the time if people want that DX contact, I cannot talk this morning. Anyways, when they want that DX contact, it's really hard for somebody to actually go and do this. It takes a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of preparation to find those remote islands or remote locations where you're going to go and get those DX stations to set up. Well, now anybody can do this. Anybody can go to a national park anywhere in the U.S., set up a station and work it for a couple hours or whatever. Take my kids there. Spend the night or whatever and set up a station for 2, 3, 4 hours and make a buttload of contacts. Excuse my French. But anyways, that just about wraps it up for the news section of the Everything Ham Radio podcast. So with that, I will talk to y'all next time. Like I said before, we're going to be talking about Yaesu System Fusion next time. So until then, 73. Hey everybody, again I'd like to say thank you for listening to this episode of the Everything Ham Radio podcast. If you like what you heard here, check out our website at everythinghamradio.com. While you're there, subscribe to get emails whenever we publish a new post. Just click on the subscribe button at the top, or you can go there directly at everythinghamradio.com/subscribe. Also, like me on Facebook at facebook.com/everythinghamradio, and follow me on Twitter at K5CLM. Once again, thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you next time. 73.